Today's event is a open Q&A with our patina partner, Jared Gold from Website by Tonight. I will let Jared introduce himself more, but Jared runs a company that helps consultants make easy to follow websites in very little time. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jared, and he is here to answer any questions that you have today. Some of you have submitted questions in advance, which he'll address. And then others of you sent in links to your own website, and he can provide some feedback for you during today's webinar. So Jared, I'm going to turn the event over to you.
Thanks so much for having me, Jesse. It's good to be back with you and the Patina Nation here. I had a lot of fun last time. So I know this one is a little bit different of a format with an open Q&A, which I think is pretty exciting. And then there's also some possibilities to review the websites that some people submitted as well, some of your members. So I'm looking through the questions here. Let me see what a first good one to address would be. So one person, the first question I'd love to get to, because I think it adds a lot of context here, is what has changed in independent consulting in the past 2 decades? And Jesse, you and the Patina team know this very well, is that more and more people are going on, these shorter term contracts with different companies, and more people are kind of unshackling themselves from the 9 to 5, if you will, and instead leveraging their expertise in a way that fits their lifestyle more. And I would say that is probably the biggest trend in what's changed in independent consulting in the past 2 decades. And the thing that corresponds to that is, in terms of representing yourself and branding yourself, that's become more and more important. And such, it's the reason not only to invest in something like a good LinkedIn profile to make yourself, but also having your own website to really tell the compelling story of why someone should, why a Fortune 500 company would hire you on this short-term project or consulting engagement, as opposed to the huge other pool of possible applicants. So I would say that's like the biggest trend, is just more and more people are becoming their own brands, if you will. And self-branding is continuing to become a very important, essential activity to compete. And thus having a website is really important as well. Also, Greg, you asked, is Jared's previous presentation recorded and available? The answer is yes. I think Jesse, as a follow-up to this, will not only send out this recording, but she can link to the first presentation, which is a little bit more of a how to create your professional consulting website. Next, let's see. Looking through some of the questions here. Just one moment. I'm seeing which one would be the best. And there's just a little bit of a follow-on question to my last point. One member asked, do clients expect me as a consultant to have a website? Long story short, yes, they definitely expect that. And I think if you don't have a website, or if you have a website that is really not flattering or is outdated, maybe your last blog post was 2015 and it was a test blog post or a one-off of saying, I'm going to start blogging, which I think we've all seen those examples. I think that actually sends the opposite message of professionalism. So you could be super established, super well-known, have an amazing resume, but if you don't have a website, or if you have a really outdated website, prospects, whether individuals or companies, might ask themselves, hey, is this person even in business? Is this person still serious about doing this, or have they possibly retired or moved on to something else? So I think more and more, as an independent consultant, it's pretty standard to have, just a simple but professional website. I think that's, and Jesse, feel free to chime in if you agree, or Dan, but I feel like that's pretty much the standard going forward to be taken seriously. Someone asked, what are the key components or tabs for a website? And by the way, these are just some quick Q&As. People are welcome to chime in with their own questions. But very shortly, we'll actually get to reviewing some of these websites. And I can share my screen as I do that. And I think that would be a fun way to sort of get inside the mind of what someone might be thinking about when improving a website. So I think that would be helpful. So it'll get a little more interactive very shortly. But someone asked, what are the key components or tabs for required for a website or recommended? Usually I just recommend something simple like home, services, about, and contact. And ideally there's some sort of tab for testimonials or short case studies as well. So yeah, home, services, about, contact, and a testimonials or reviews or case studies would be the nice to have fifth tab to really drive home the points. That's all you need. I wouldn't worry about pricing or anything, especially as usually pricing is more of a consultative, something people arrive to together as opposed to necessarily having a fixed price. So I usually wouldn't worry about putting that directly on your website. And then the last question I'm going to get to before I dive into some website reviews, and Jesse, feel free to interject with any more questions you might have received in the meantime. One of your members had asked how to tie in SEO into consulting websites. So capability or industry focus. In general, I'm not personally an SEO expert. I know a little bit about it, but in general, I wouldn't worry too much about SEO off the bat. I think SEO can be someone asked, can he move closer to the microphone? Hopefully, let me see. Can you, hopefully you all can hear me better now. I'll try to talk louder. My apologies, and hold the microphone closer here. Someone had asked about SEO. Long story short is I wouldn't worry too much about SEO right now. I think SEO is a good long-term investment. If you are starting to see, if you're willing to make a pretty heavy investment, possibly $5,000 or more a year with a very trusted, reputable SEO firm with a good track record, that might be a good investment. But just for getting that simple professional website up, I say don't even worry about SEO. It's usually not too useful off the bat. It's more of a headache, if anything. Most likely your prospects are going to come through to you through referrals or through like a good guest blogging arrangement. If you can be a guest blog contributor on an industry blog or be a guest on a webinar like I am here, that is really, really valuable in terms of possible SEO as well as a possible referral engine. So hopefully that answers that SEO question. Karen had asked to us panelists here, is this strictly people's questions, no overviews of what of to-dos for a website? So Karen, I think that is better covered in my previous recorded webinar. And Jesse, I'm sure will send that out as a follow-up with this one as well. So they're both kind of together. And I'm just going to get to Mike's question really quickly, and then I'm going to go into website review. Also, really quickly, someone had asked what SEO is. SEO is an acronym for search engine optimization. And the way to think about SEO is if you type in something like plumber, Northern Virginia, you'll see Google or other search engines will return results. And so SEO is like where you rank towards the top of those results. If you rank, that's what SEO is. And last question before I get to the live website review of some of the members' websites, you can get some ideas in terms of how I think about this, and I'll share my screen as I review that. Mike had asked, I'm semi-retired doing part-time consulting. Why is a website beneficial to me? I think the best way to think about it is a website shows that you are a professional, credible person, as opposed to just someone kind of off the street, if you will. So obviously, or Mike, I think usually for folks like yourself and myself as well, most good leads come through referrals. And so that's really important. But a website really helps tee up the conversation and establish credibility so that when you hop on a phone, like an intro call with someone, which I imagine is pretty standard in a consulting arrangement, is you don't keep everything via email, but more so you want to hop on an intro call. And the website really tees that up for success, so that it gives someone something to peruse before the call so that they continue to become warm and are ready to engage with you on the call and further qualify themselves as a potential client. So hopefully that is a useful answer. Let me see. I'm going to get into the website review right now. If anyone has any further questions, feel free to live chat them into the Q&A, and I'm happy to cover them. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Just give me 1 second, if you all don't mind. I'm going to get into some of this review of these websites that members have sent in. And I think you all can find it useful to see what others like yourself are doing, and then what is good or maybe what could be improved on. So 1 second. All right, I think everyone can see my screen now. So this was one of the submissions that a Patina Nation member submitted. So it looks like the Avery James group. And so let's just scroll down very quickly here. This is just the home page. So this is what we're looking at. So right here, this is what we call the banner, especially on the home page. So this is prime real estate in terms of your website. And I see very clearly what the Avery James Group does, growing market share profitably for B2B companies. I wish there was some sort of sub-blurb here, just saying what exactly that meant. But as I scroll down here, let's see. We work with companies whose primary customers are other businesses through B2B strategy, marketing innovation, and business process creation and refinement. We help businesses grow market share profitably. So that is helpful. I still think something could be up here small between the title and the learn more button, but that helps. And then 3 services and short blurbs. So that's nice. And then how to reach us. So there's a phone number and an info at email address. And let's just see what happens when we do learn more. So there's kind of an empty banner here, so that throws me off. And there's kind of a lot of text here, kind of just thrown together on the page a little bit. And then I noticed here, because there's no banner, notice that the navigation items are not showing up until I highlight them, because they're set to be white over a banner image. So I think that's something important to note. Offerings. Okay, so we have the 3 things again. Let's look at the blog. So it looks like the blog is kind of outdated. The last post was December 13th, 2017. So I might be a little confused if I saw this, wondering, hey, is this person still in business? Their last blog post was December of 2017. So that's one consideration. I would consider, in terms of a recommendation there, I would either start blogging maybe once a month, and once you have a few posts up, relaunch the blog. But until then, I would actually hide the blog, because I think it would actually be doing you a disservice right now. Then we have the contact page. And this seems to be loading a little bit slower, but that just could be my internet. Or it could be this image. I'm not sure. One second. Okay. And then we have this again. So it's a little bit redundant, but that's okay. So my main recommendations right now would be to hide the blog. And I would actually make the Avery James group in white font, or maybe even consider like a simple paying someone on a site like Fiverr, Fiverr, perhaps $50 or $100 to create a very simple logo that looks a little bit more professional than this. This just looks like normal text. And yeah, so this site isn't bad. Like it's pretty decent. It gets the job done. I would maybe consider polishing up the about page a little bit. And oh, you know what? I guess when I first clicked the about page, the banner image didn't load. So there might be some sort of technical issue that's making the banner images not load or load slowly. It could just be my internet. But even then, that's something to think about, is if your website is easy to load, even if the internet's a little bit choppy. So I think that's something to consider. And then, like I said, I would hide the blog for the time being until perhaps you post a few like recent blog posts. You have maybe 2 or 3, and then you relaunch it. So that is my overall review of the Avery James group. Overall, not bad. Very lastly, one thing I want to note is this not secure. This comes up in Google Chrome. I'm not sure how other browsers display it, but in general, this comes up if your website does not have a certain security, what's called an SSL certificate. And more browsers are saying not secure, or even accidentally blocking some websites if they don't have an SSL certificate. So I think that would be something to speak with your web developer about, or hosting provider or whatever, to try to get an SSL certificate so that this comes up and says secure and says HTTPS, S for secure, with like a little green lock symbol. So I think that's really helpful. So in general, that is the first website review. If you all just want to chat in really quickly and tell me if that feedback was helpful, and if I should keep going on these website reviews, or if you all want to take it in another direction. We're kind of just experimenting with the live Q&A, and I want to make sure I'm as useful as possible to Patina Nation members. All right. You all are wonderful. Thank you. I love doing these webinars. All right, I will continue in a second. I want to answer just a few quick things. Okay, yeah, here, give me 1 second on, I have a few, I'm getting some great feedback, so I'm going to continue, but I want to quickly dive into these questions here that some people are asking. I appreciate everyone's engagement. Let's see. Oh gosh, I'm getting a lot of questions. All right, let's start with the R. Kometz. I'm probably butchering that, my apologies. What are the most effective blogs? Or is it a full case study, insightful comments on relevant business events in the news, etc.? How long? These are great questions. You know, I think it really varies, and you have a lot of flexibility over what a good blog is. I think my best advice is, when you start blogging, you want to commit to it, perhaps even just one good blog post once per month. And you know what? Like, I think the biggest key is making it not feel like a chore. And what I mean by that is, write about the things you actually really care about, want to write about. So think less about, oh, this is a blog, this is an obligation, what an annoyance. Think about, you know, what do I enjoy reading? What have I read that's interesting that I have an opinion on that I want to write about? What is an interesting short case study, a client success story that I'm proud of, that I might want to write a blog about? Or what is a industry opinion that perhaps I either agree with or share a contrarian view on? So whatever you feel compelled to write about, I think would be an effective blog post, so much as long as it's relevant to what you do. So for example, if you are an HR consultant, but you're really passionate about 1960s muscle cars, I probably wouldn't write a blog post about a 1960s muscle car on your business consulting website. So as long as it's decently relevant to what you do, just whatever getting you excited in your industry, or is newsworthy, or a recent case study, a success story of a client that you're proud of. Linda asked, I think some of the challenges, I'm sorry, real quick, Mike says, I assume blogs should not include the client for privacy reasons. If you get permission from the client, you would include it, or feel free to include it, but I wouldn't just drop their name immediately. A lot of clients would be honored to be featured publicly as a testimonial or success story, but you should definitely ask them, especially if it gets into a little bit more personal details, like, hey, this client had a real problem with XYZ, because that's a little personal. You don't want to get a client, you don't want clients to worry about, oh, I don't want to hire John because he's just going to blab about the problems we had on his blog. So use some discretion and ask clients for permission. Linda asked, I think some of the challenges we run into building a website as non-experts on web design is that we have to work within templates, and sometimes that isn't very clear. I wasn't at your original presentation, but did you share some tips and tricks for Squarespace, or could you show some templates here and how to use them? Linda, that's an excellent question, and I appreciate it. And I think I would refer you to my first webinar, which I think covers this pretty decently. And I do really, really recommend Squarespace as the easiest platform to get a simple and professional website up and running. Whether you want to try to do it yourself or hire someone like myself and Website by Tonight, I think Squarespace just really simplifies a lot of the technical aspects of launching a website. And they have great templates, but there's not so many to choose from that it's overwhelming. I think if you choose a platform like WordPress, there's just so many options, and most of which are terrible, but there's still quite a few really good options for things like premium templates. But it's just the paradox of choice, is it's really hard to tell which one you should pick. And if you buy one and then you don't like it, you won't be able to get a refund most likely, and you'll be out maybe that $50 or $100. Whereas Squarespace, you don't pay for any templates. You can try different templates for free until you figure out which one looks and works as you want it to. Have just a few more questions here, and then I'm going to get to the second review. BJVOO says you can contact Squarespace with the security certificate. Yes, so Squarespace by default gives you a security certificate on your websites, which is another great convenience that Squarespace offers, just another useful thing they do. Paul asked, can you show a great consulting website example? Let me see. I don't want to be biased in terms of showing what we've done, but let me just let's just see. I can show one that we've done, and if you all have a good example of one that you found that you really like, feel free to live chat it in, and I'd be happy to show it and walk through it if you all think it's a really good one. So I'll show a great one in just a moment. I'll just give a very short overview because I'm not looking to just plug what we do, but just to give you like one example. Someone had asked, what are your thoughts on visuals if you plan to use stock photos? In general, I prefer using stock photos that are relevant to your business. And I think I included in my original presentation, there's some great free stock photo websites, as well as like really inexpensive, maybe $10 to $30 a photo. And if you want like a really captivating homepage banner image, especially if you're in like a niche business, such as something like healthcare consulting, and you want to make sure that the intro image captures the look and feel you're going for and doesn't look cheesy, $30 could be a great investment just for an awesome homepage banner image. So there's multiple free stock photo websites such as Unsplash and Pexels. And those are just two. There's quite a few if you just Google it. Or you could use a site like iStock, which has tons of great images to choose from. And in my first presentation, I do go over just some short examples that I think would be really helpful as to what makes a good stock photo versus one that looks cheesy and stock. And my main rule of thumb is you want to pick a picture that looks like it was professionally taken and looks like it actually happened, as opposed to a room of 14 people with a blurry background, all smiling with an insanely huge smile and giving a thumbs up to the camera. So I wouldn't use images like that. And Rusty really quickly asked, if you hide a blog in Squarespace, does it delete the content? Or can you hide it and come back and the content is all there? Yes, you can hide a blog in Squarespace without deleting the content. I'm quite sure of that. All right. And so very, very quickly, before I get into reviewing the other sites, just because someone has asked if I can show a great consulting website example, and I'm trying not to be biased, I'm trying not to plug what we do. This is just one I have off the top of my head that a lot of people really like, that Website by Tonight personally did. However, if someone has found a consulting website that they really, really like, that they want to live chat in, I would be happy to review that one as well. So this is just one example. And, I know that this is a little bit aggressive for some people in terms of having a full width professional headshot or body shot, if you will. And this is just one example. And some people like to brand their business as just themselves. Some people like to brand it as a company, but they're the sole founder, and perhaps they want to keep it that way, or they want to add teammates. I don't think there's any right or wrong. It's just whatever feels comfortable for you. So in this case, this is Charles Dykes. Notice we have the green lock, or now Google made it gray, but it's a lock. And when you click it, connection is secure. It says HTTPS. Here's his logo in the top left. Pretty simple. We have a header here that's a little bit smaller, but it's a little bit vague, but it does trigger some interest in terms of, what does this guy have to say? He does strategy and corporate development. What does it mean to rethink how we feed an exploding global population? So what's funny is it looks like Charles was a strategy consultant before for a variety of businesses, and has actually pivoted into world hunger or something like that, which is really interesting. So here we have a captivating quote. We have another background image, and this is just, relevant to food, what have you, what we're doing. And here are some recent case studies using the blog functionality of Squarespace. So probably some impact that Charles has been having, or at least some research that he thinks is captivating. And then here's a call to action section of Get to Know Me. Here's a map of where Charles lives. And the call to action here is a little bit more subtle than I personally would prefer, but it's a matter of preference, where you can click the email link to email Charles, or you can click the LinkedIn link to see his LinkedIn profile. So he did change up his website on his own, which I did not expect. This is just a website I had, but very, very simple, one pager saying a little bit about what he does. Let me think if there's another one that I have off the top of my head that I think is good to review. Give me 1 second. I guess, Karen, I agree with you. The down arrow does hit a silly part of the picture. That's the risk of choosing a full body shot. That is not normal. I don't usually recommend a full body shot for a consultant. Charles, I guess, does things a little differently, but a lot of people are drawn to his website. Another one that I think does it well, give me 1 second, is Talent Advisor Group. So I know this one was not changed recently. So I'm just going to very, very quickly go through this one very, very quickly. This is another one we did because no one chatted in any particular examples of sites they like. And then I'm going to review other Patina Nation member sites that they submitted. So this is another one. They paid for a professional logo here, Talent Advisor Group. On the left, we have some a quick blurb: recruiting transformation to help companies scale and grow. The founder, Trang, her email right here, her LinkedIn right here. Very simple. We have a relevant looking image here, a nice stock photo. I think this one was free, or maybe $10, but I think it was free. Clear headline of what they do. Some icons for different services. That's a very popular thing, as you saw in that first website example we reviewed. Also another service they offer with a learn more button. We have three testimonials, excuse me. A professional headshot of Trang. I always recommend professional headshots, and a little bio on her. And then a let's talk call to action, which just when you click it, it goes to email her. And here's her LinkedIn profile as well. So hopefully these are two useful examples here. Now, I'm going to move on to other website reviews that were submitted to me by Patina members. So let me find another one. I got a bunch of them. Let's do this one. Let's see how this one's looking. Bay State Advisors Group. Okay, here we are. Firstly, it's HTTPS, so congratulations to their web person or hosting provider, what have you. So that's nice. And here we have home, what we do, which is a drop down, which it looks like is an individual page for each of the services they offer. Ironically, they chose this. I rarely see this. They found the same stock image that we liked and put it here. So that's a funny coincidence. But what I do like off the bat is I like that Bay State Advisors does multiple different things, and there's enough information on each service that they actually have a dedicated page for each. And I think that's really useful. Let's look at their about page. I'll go to their homepage in a minute, but I'm just curious. Their about, we have a nice headshot of Marina, the founder, with her background. So that looks good. Contact. And here, I actually absolutely prefer a contact form over a contact email address. So I like Marina's choice of judgment here. And for a contact form, I usually like the prospect to put in his or her name, email address, phone number, though phone number clearly saying optional just in case. And instead of saying message, I like to say, how can we help you? And that way it gives them a little bit more opportunity to outline their problem. Ideally, a prospect doesn't necessarily spill their guts and tell you every little thing, but ideally gives you enough background information to confirm that, hey, this is someone that could be a good lead. I'm going to send him or her more information and help get an intro call set up. And then lastly, I like to have an optional box of how did you hear about us? Because that's really helpful, especially if you find out that perhaps you were featured in an industry blog or someone, perhaps a networking connection that you met a year ago referred you to this person, and you can follow up with that person and thank them for the referral, thus generating more possible referrals. So I think that's a valuable box to include, but overall, I do prefer the contact form. One reason I don't like just an email address is because it doesn't frame the conversation. So someone doesn't know what to write necessarily in that intro email. And I don't like just including a phone number. I know Marina does it here. And if she has people answering the phone, that's great. But let's say it's just you and you miss a call from a number you don't know. At this point, we all get calls from numbers we don't know. Usually it's spam or it's very obnoxious. And so chances are we're not going to call it back. Or if we do, we're disappointed, right? We get 20 calls from numbers we don't know. One of them might be a lead, but you might have missed it. You might be playing phone tag. So a form allows you to capture things and really schedule a call via email where it's much more reliable. Let's go back to the home page here. One thing I noticed is when I click through these different tabs, the website loads really quickly. So that's super important. Remember the first website I reviewed loaded a little bit slower or a little bit choppy with the images. So here I'm on the homepage. We support startup companies, outsourced accounting, CFO, tax, and HR services. While I think this text could be a little bit more exciting, I love the way this is so straightforward. Like startup companies, here's what we do. I love that. I think the banner image, I'm not sure necessarily how I feel about it. It's not bad. Maybe it's a tiny bit generic looking, or it could be a little bit more attractive or something. Here, this is an example of a stock photo I don't necessarily like, where it's a generic looking person just looking at the camera, kind of giving a thumbs up, and it's kind of pixelated. But here, let's look at the intro. There's a short intro saying, we understand challenges entrepreneurs and early stage companies face, a little bit more info on what they do. And then I like how there's these images that link to the individual services page. So I think that's great, is a quick overview of services, a quick contact form here, their Facebook and Twitter linked in the footer, though it looks like it's not actually linked to it's just linked to Facebook or Twitter as a whole. It's not linked to their individual pages. So that looks to be a bug. But overall, I think these images are a little bit too big, or like the round shape is kind of throwing me off. But overall, I think what they do well is the layout is super user friendly and there's no big mistakes. I think I would change some aesthetic things, such as I wouldn't make these images round. This is a good example, this human resource, and I'm not sure if that should say human resources. I like this stock photo here. This looks like a real company with real people. I think this one looks a little bit more stock photo-y. And I think this one of like an empty building looks a little bit abstract. So I like an example like that photo. I think they did a great job picking that stock photo. So that is a short review of that website. And how are we doing? How's everyone feeling? Just live chat in. Tell me if that was still helpful. And Rusty, my website uses a simple and stock photos from Shutterstock. Let's look at, ooh, okay. Credit to Rusty, Squarespace site. It looks like the Ready template, which is the same one we used for Talent Advisor Group. So very simple navigation on the side. Let's tailor a plan for you. I think that is a fantastic call to action. It's much more exciting than something like learn more. It's much more actionable. And the reason is when you see this button, let's tailor a plan for you, that sets an expectation more as to what happens when you click it. When you click it and you fill out this contact form, you can expect to get a tailored plan for you. So yeah, Rusty, I think you did a great job here. I would hide the search functionality because that's just one qualm I have is usually search boxes on a website. There's no context as to what you're searching for. And chances are there's not too much content on your website. So I would actually hide the search thing. I like how this links to your LinkedIn profile right here. That's great. I think you have a nice logo, actually super simple. Like people overthink logos here. Like I think this is a fine logo. Probably didn't cost too much to create, but it looks super professional. And I like how this shade of blue is also included in other parts of the site. So another benefit of the logo there is you get these colors you can use. Obviously, because it's Squarespace, it's HTTPS secure by default. We see that little lock. Rusty, one small thing is if you could go to your graphic designer, whoever did the logo, and get them to create a favicon size of the W, you can populate it up here in the top corner. Instead of using this black box Squarespace favicon by default, you can just get your W appearing up there. So that could be a nice little touch. The homepage here, workforce solutions that make business sense. We provide tailored people solutions to strengthen your company's performance, nurture desired culture, win in the marketplace. I think that's a pretty good headline. You know, these are nice banner images, stock photos that look like they really happened, right? No one's looking at the camera, a diverse set of people, which is important, but it looks more authentic, not forced. We have a nice services link, how it works. Ooh, I like that. Contact us. We'll assess your needs with an in-depth analysis, and then we'll work with you. So that's a good one. I think this stock photo I'm not too big of a fan of because everyone's looking at the camera and crossing their arms. It looks a little generic, but that's a pretty small qualm. We have home, services, about, contact. Rusty, it's almost like you listened to my first webinar and followed it, even though I don't think you necessarily attended that, but yeah, you nailed the exact thing we're going for. I would replace this image because this looks a little bit cheesy in terms of stock photography. You have your services here. Yeah, I think this is a really nice example. Great headshot, great bio. Ooh, I like this. I rarely recommend this on a webinar because it's not like an immediate thing I think of, but I think it's a huge benefit if you can include some personal values about how you do business. I believe, more and more companies are doing that, and I think more and more individuals should do that. And I think, let's just say hypothetically, someone really believes in giving generously. You share core values with your clients. I think that's going to help set you apart when they're like, hey, Rusty, I was chatting with other consultants like yourself. It's between you and a few others, but what really stood out is your core values, especially give generously. I agree with that. So I think having your core values there helps attract your ideal prospects and builds a common ground. So yeah, Rusty, really, really, really nice job. I completely agree that that your website's great. Robert asked, why use stock photos of a team or associates when you're a solo practice? Is it misleading? Well, I think when you speak with a prospect, you'll probably let them know that you are a solo practice, I assume. And I think I imagine most prospects don't really care if you're a solo practice, assuming that you can handle the work. I found that most prospects don't necessarily care how the sausage is made, so much just that it's made and it solves their problem or problems. So in general, I don't think it's too misleading, especially because it might be these stock photos might still be representative of you going onto a client site and being in some sort of collaborative meeting room, if you will, and working with their team members. So I don't think it's too misleading. I think it would only be misleading is if you never said that you were a one person show. So I would make sure if you get a prospect on the phone, let them know that, hey, just a heads up. Well, I wouldn't say it like that. Just organically weave it into the conversation. I'm sure they'll ask, how big is your firm? How long have you been around? I think one small context clue would be if you are a one-person firm, having a professional headshot of you and a bio on there would give like a slight clue that, hey, your name is, let's say, Wynwood Partners, but, about, and here's your headshot with your bio. So I would recommend that usually if you're a one-person show. Stephen asks, do you have an example of a site where I'm the main person, but have a team of consultants that are part of my team? That is a really great question. And I don't have an immediate example. Let me see. I think you could build it as in just like any of these other sites, but I would say I would still have your team bios. And if you work with these people enough, they could have a bio on your site. And you could just clarify, hey, we bring on this person for X, Y, or Z projects. So you still are the company, you still get the credit, if you will, but you can still pool or you can still gain the benefits of having a bigger team that you pool from, like a network of experts that you handpicked for each project or for each project that is a perfect fit. And that might also ease any client concerns of, oh, this is a single person firm, but he or she does have a pool of experts that they bring in. So this will be a great fit. So I would still maybe build out a team page with those bios of those most impressive or frequent people that you bring in on engagements. All right. And let's see, I think we have time for one more review. It's 12:45 Eastern. And I think we start at 12 Eastern. So I'm happy to do one more site review and then open the floor up for maybe some final questions as well. So let me go back to the list of people that submitted their site for review. Let's do this one. Give me 1 second, everyone. Ooh, okay, so this person submitted their website, bwctax.com, BWC Tax, and it looks like their website isn't working. So that is important. So it's that I guess I didn't prepare for that. I would say one good tip is just periodically go to your website and make sure it's working as normal. So that's an important lesson to learn. Here's another one that's submitted. We got a bunch of submissions. Okay, so this one. I think off the bat, I have to say that in general with business names, it's important to have ones that are easy to pronounce and easy to spell. I think I'm a pretty decent reader, and I'm not sure how to say this, like unique, I guess. So that is a little tough. Oh, I guess that's a play off her name, Linda Ewan, or Ewan, or Ewan, I'm not sure. I like home, about, resume, sample. Oh, we have resume coming soon. It's not a secure site. It's very easy to navigate. I like that. We have some really, really fantastic clients. The contact is a link to directly email Linda, and a link to her LinkedIn profile. Samples are coming soon. Yeah, I mean, Linda, you clearly know what you're doing because you have an amazing list of clients. But I will say, with a coming soon for your resume and a coming soon for samples, as well as it looks to be an older site and like an older design, that might send the image that people might not, and like site, copyright 2011, it might beg the question of, hey, is Linda clearly knew what she was doing 8 years ago or however long ago when she was working with clients? Is she still in business? And by you submitting this, like, of course you're still in business, but I might not necessarily know that by looking at the website because it is older, copyright 2011, and the resume and samples are still coming soon. In general, I recommend not having a coming soon page or coming soon pages. I think that is a little bit broad, and it almost looks like you just threw something up, and it might send the wrong message. Let's have time for, I think we have time for just one really additional quick one. Oh, wait, hold on. We have 2 questions. I write blogs using MailChimp. Is there a way to have the blog from MailChimp populate on my Squarespace site automatically? Asked by Steven. It's a good question. I think I'm not a super expert on Squarespace's blogging capabilities. What I will say is that I think there's some sort of integration between, if you post a blog on Squarespace, it can be sent out via MailChimp. So in general, I don't think MailChimp is the best way to write blogs, quote unquote, because it doesn't live on some sort of repository. It lives in these isolated newsletters, as opposed to if it lives on a website. So in general, I would recommend posting the blogs on a website, like writing them directly on a website where it can live in a repository and people can browse multiple ones. Like they can see your entire list of them, and then setting up some sort of integration, if you will, that every time you post a blog on Squarespace, it sends out a quick MailChimp blast. Or in your MailChimp blast, you can just quickly say, hey, I released a new blog, it's on this, and a button to click through. Because a huge benefit of having a blog on your website is that it's easy to share. And that if people are on your website and let's say someone else on LinkedIn links to your blog because they like it, and someone else clicks through it and they go, oh, that was an insightful thought on outsourced tax consulting or what have you. And then while they're already on your website, right, you've already gotten this new prospect. And then let's say they go to your homepage, they go, oh, that's really interesting, I might be able to use these person's services. And then they reach out to you and fill out the contact form. And so that's perfect. You want someone on your website, and a great way to get a good qualified prospect on your website, and also to give you credibility enough for them to consider reaching out to you, is by having a great blog post. So in general, you ideally want a blog post living on your website instead of isolated in a MailChimp newsletter, if that makes sense. Robert quickly asked, can you discuss your pricing to get started with a basic solo person website? I will really quickly go into the website by tonight details at the very end of this presentation. I appreciate that question, Robert. And let's see. I think that does it. We have 9 minutes left. Maybe I can get through one very, very quick review. Well, yeah, maybe I can get through one more very, very quick one. And then I can pass it back to Jesse to just put a bow on everything. And we will wrap this up. And if anyone has any final questions, feel free to live chat them in now. This was one more website we had asked to be reviewed. It's Vision Solutions. Let's see. I think it's a little bit busy with this banner image. And in general, one of my banner image tips is to not have something that looks like it was like 3D looking or Photoshopped, like it looks like an authentic image from a camera. And so this looks kind of Photoshopped and it's kind of busy. We have we have services with more info. Let's see what happens when I click to more info. We have different projects. Yeah, I think in general, these images could be better. I mean, not even necessarily every service requires an image. That's something to consider as well. But I would use actual stock photos instead of like 3D graphics. We have there's no banner, developing innovative strategies and insights, achieving growth. I mean, it looks like this person is an expert in a lot of things, but it's so overwhelming that I'm not entirely sure who they help. And they have such a wide range of services. I get kind of overwhelmed. Paradox of choice again. And they also offer training and coaching. So yeah, I think overall I would simplify this. It's a little bit overwhelming. Contact form is good. Let's look at projects. Okay, we have some short case studies. These, and very simple. These are good, very helpful. Clients, you have some great logos. I would maybe just remove the clients page and move that to the home page as well to build that credibility off the bat. We have a contact page. As stated, I would do, how can we help you, and remove the subject and put an optional phone number and an optional how did you hear about us? And I would simplify the homepage. There's just so many services here. It's a little bit overwhelming. So that's my very, very abridged feedback. So clearly this person's an expert. Just, I believe in less is more so that the person doesn't get overwhelmed. So that concludes my Q&A and website review. I hope that was helpful. I think I need to pass it back to Jesse. I need to give Jesse permission again, I think.
Jared, thanks so much. This was really insightful. Give me one moment as I pull up this slide for you all. For more information on Jared's services and website by tonight, there are 2 packages that you can choose from. One is $850, and then the other one for a more complex site is $1,200. Patina Nation has partnered with Website by Tonight to offer this to you, and you get a $50 discount when you mention Patina Nation. In these packages, it includes a 3-hour screen share. If you do the more robust package, it's 5.5 hours. When you do this screen share session, you also are taught how to perform basic maintenance. Jared and his team can also provide you guidance on things like domain purchasing, copywriting, graphics, how to get a logo, setting up your email, and more. So if you're interested in scheduling a free discovery call with Jared, visit patinanation.com under marketing tools and resources, and then website development.
Thanks so much, Jesse. And one thing.
Thank you all for joining us today. In about 15 minutes, you'll receive a post-event survey in your inbox that helps us improve these events for you and lets us know more about what you're looking to hear in the future. Also visit patinanation.com for more of our offerings. If you have any questions or feedback for Jared, feel free to reach out to him at hello@websitebytonight.com.
This has been a presentation of the Patina Nation. To watch more content like this or for more information, please visit us online at www.patinanation.com.